Okay, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's David Schmidt, and welcome to our product training call this evening. I hope that you're all doing well, that you're staying safe. These are challenging times for us, but we're going to try to make the most of it. As you know, we have been talking about COVID-19 the past couple of months and what you can do to protect you and your family if there's even a threat. I heard from one of our leaders in Denmark today, and she had told me that the Danish government announced that they had tested 128,000 people, and out of that number, only 426 people were infected with COVID-19. That's 1/3%. That's not people that are hospitalized. That's even people that are just walking around and don't even know that they're infected. So I think we should be asking, why did this whole thing take place in the first place? But in any case, we are going to move on to a happier subject and try to focus on positive things. And because it's the summer and there is this phenomena of pandemic pounds, meaning that people have been locked in place, sheltering in place, whatever you want to call it, and trying to protect themselves from COVID-19. And people have naturally put on a little bit of weight. So now you may be wondering, well, what can I do to lose this extra body fat? Is there anything that can help me lose body fat quickly? What's a reasonable rate of fat loss? We're going to talk about all of that this evening, and I hope that you're going to find it enjoyable. So let's go ahead and get started. It'll be fun. Okay, so now, first thing is, just want to remind you that I am not a medical doctor, and that I would ask that you take any of the things that I might recommend this evening, you take them to your healthcare practitioner, to your medical doctor, before you implement them, and you find out what's right for you. Especially if you have a pre-existing health condition, not every strategy is going to be right for you. For example, intermittent fasting would not be the best strategy for a type 1 diabetic. So let's get into this in a little bit more detail. Well, we should be happy that summer is here for many reasons. One of the reasons is that when we're going outside, we're getting lots of vitamin D. And we know from our prior webinars that vitamin D helps to support the function of the immune system. And there is clinical evidence today that people that are dying of COVID-19 have low levels of vitamin D. And if you saw in my previous webinar, you know the reason is that vitamin D helps the immune system modulate itself to incoming threats like new viruses. And vitamin D will even attach itself to the novel coronavirus, slowing it down and making it more difficult for the virus to replicate. So you want to get outside, get in the sun, and get your vitamin D. Okay. That's just, of course, one of the many reasons why we should be excited about summer. Another reason why we might want to elevate our vitamin D for the men out there. I bet you want to have the best testosterone levels possible. Well, when you get proper sunlight and you elevate your body's levels of vitamin D, it's going to help to support your testosterone levels. In fact, there are even lamps that are sold, UV lamps that you shine on your back. And these lamps, which help elevate your vitamin D, are also designed to elevate your testosterone levels. All right, so anyway, let's talk about this. First thing is, let's create a proper foundation where you're going to set yourself up for success. And these are going to include some really basic things, and we'll talk about each of them so you can optimize your results and get into it. And then we'll talk about some other things as well, some little tweaks here and there. So we're going to start with the easy one. It should be the easy one for most of us, where we're getting proper rest and proper sleep. Now, we want to shoot for about 7 to 8 hours, and there's a lot of good reasons for this. First thing is, hormonally, getting this amount of sleep is going to help reduce our stress hormones. When our body is stressed, and we could talk about this from an evolutionary point of view, but when our body is stressed, we're going to tend to hold on to our stores of fat, because our fat is our emergency energy. And historically, if we were subjected to an emergency, we want to have those extra energy stores. So we elevate cortisol, and this helps hold on to our fat. So that's not a good thing. So we want to go into fat burning. So we want to rest and relax. I've seen clinical studies where when you increase the amount of sleep up to about 8 hours, it will elevate testosterone levels by about 30%, as compared to, let's say, 6 hours of sleep. So it's very, very important for both men and women to get adequate sleep, because it's going to optimize your testosterone and your growth hormone. And both of these, of course, are going to play a role in optimizing muscle building and burning fat. And of course, we have products. If you're having a problem sleeping, we have products to help support natural sleep. I'd also recommend putting away the electronics before you go to sleep, because it can make it more difficult. Okay, now, having a healthy diet, this is an entire subject. We don't want to spend an hour just talking about this, and there's a lot of great resources. The first thing that I'd say is I personally don't believe in this concept of dieting. When we refer to a diet, let's think about it in terms of not calorie restriction, but what is it that you're eating, right? So we know that we have to get the junk out of our diet, and we want to eat sensibly. That doesn't mean that you can't enjoy what it is that you're eating. And I'm going to tell you about a secret about what it is that I do to build up more muscle mass. And you're going to love it, especially if you love different types of sweets. Okay, I'll tell you about that in just a second. But first, you set up a general structure. Now, I've used intermittent fasting for the past 4 years now, and it creates a very good foundation for optimizing your hormones. So think about it this way. There is an inverse relationship between growth hormone and insulin. When our growth hormone levels are going up, that's going to be burning fat. When our insulin goes up, we're going to be storing fat. Okay, so we want to improve our insulin response. A side note, for those of you men out there that may be experiencing erectile dysfunction, and this is a surprisingly high number of men, okay? Depending on what age group that you're in, it could be 50%, 60% of men in your age group that have mild to severe erectile dysfunction. This is nothing to be ashamed of. It's just a symptom of your diet and your overall lifestyle. Well, here's something for you to consider, is that men that go on testosterone therapy often don't find this to be an effective treatment for erectile dysfunction. And it's often thought of that erectile dysfunction is connected to testosterone. That's only partially true. It really has more to do with your endothelial function, the function and performance of your cardiovascular system. And so, and this has to do with your response to insulin, ultimately. So what this all means, and I see a number of you are raising your hand for questions. I'm going to get to questions at the end, I promise. What this all means is that there's a few things that we can do to optimize our hormones and reverse erectile dysfunction without having to use drugs. And one of these things is to get control of your response to insulin. And one of the ways we can do this is through intermittent fasting. Now, intermittent fasting, a simple way to explain this is that you eat within an 8-hour window. So let's say you pick from, my 8-hour window is from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And outside of that window, I may drink tea, I may drink decaf coffee, I'll drink water, obviously. I may have a drink like a vitamin water that has stevia, so there's no calories. So you want to certainly be drinking fluids, but you don't want any calories. This may take you 2 or 3 weeks to get into that 8-hour window, but the benefits are extraordinary. It's going to help during that fasting period of 16 hours, you're cranking up your growth hormone levels naturally without any drugs, without any pills. It's going to optimize your fat burning, and you're going to find, just using that one technique, a lot of that extra body fat is just going to simply come off. And during that 8-hour window, you can do some amazing things. I'm going to share with you a little secret. Some of you that know me, you may know this about me, that every once in a while, I might like something like a cupcake or ice cream. And I don't mind, because I found how to eat these foods strategically so they would actually help me. All right, what the heck does that mean? Now, this is not something you would do daily, by the way, but it's all this idea that when you're doing intense exercise, it's been found in studies that in order to build more muscle, you're going to use protein and a fast digesting carbohydrate. You combine these two. So for example, after you exercise, you would take something, let's say 30 grams of protein. I'll talk about that later. And you're going to add a fast digesting carbohydrate. Now, I would recommend something like honey. I would recommend a banana. These are all going to go great with a protein shake, and it will accomplish the task of driving that protein into the muscle and increasing muscle synthesis. And you're going to get better results with that. That's a strategy that works for bodybuilders. It's definitely worked for me. And if you say one day during the week, you know what, I'm gonna treat myself to something sweet, maybe a piece of chocolate, maybe a cupcake, whatever it is that you like, and you have that with your protein after your recovery from your exercise, and that's a way to use that sugar to help build muscle. Okay. Another thing I would definitely encourage, and there's all types of ways to tweak this, but generally, for many reasons, you want to go with a diet that's based high in protein, moderate fat, low in carbs, and there's all ways to experiment with this. If you really want to go ketogenic, it's 25 grams of carbs or less. For some people, you can experiment with it. See how it works for you. The disadvantage is that when you go lower on carbs before you keto adapt to it, it's going to make exercising way more difficult. So just because your carbs might be high doesn't mean that you can't burn fat, right? So there's all different kinds of strategies. And then the final thing that I would share with you is don't feel like you have to do this every day. I was once watching an interview with Sylvester Stallone. Incredible body, regardless of whether or not you like his movies, what he's done with his physique is absolutely incredible. So he would talk about when he was in training for his movies, 5 days during the week, it was like he was in the army. He was eating 1,100 calories a day, very strict, chicken and vegetables. But then on Saturdays and Sundays, he would eat whatever he would want. He'd eat ice cream. He used to talk about loving that and whatever else. And this is an important concept because if you don't build in cheat days, it's going to break you down mentally. So that's very, very important. The other thing about cheat days is they actually help you because they prevent your metabolism from adapting to this high protein diet that you're going to follow during the week. So just know that these cheat days are actually good. All right, again, this is a massive topic. We're just going to cover it briefly. But on the idea of exercise, let's say the past couple of months you've been at home, you haven't been exercising because the gyms have been closed. I built a gym in my home, so I exercise 5-6 days a week because I love it. That's my mindset, last bullet point. But if you haven't exercised in a while, Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. And it's very, very important that you set a window of about the first 3 weeks and you just take it easy. So go out, do some mild walking, pick something that is not going to be strenuous, and get your metabolism used to the idea that you're going to be moving your body. But it should not be strenuous. You want to give your body a chance to adapt. Even more importantly, you're going to be getting your heart and cardiovascular system back in shape. So you definitely want to take it slow. If you can work with a trainer, even better. And keep in mind that ultimately, the way that you're going to be reshaping your body is by challenging your body. And this is also going to be turning on genes associated with longevity. So this gets to the point of mindset. Many people fail because they don't like to exercise, and it's because they say, I don't like exercise. So let's flip that around and develop a mindset where you say, I love exercise. I love it that I can take an hour each day or 30 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever it is. Whatever you do for yourself, you block out that time and say, I'm so looking forward to the next 20 minutes because I'm turning on genes for longevity. I'm doing something healthy for myself. I'm promoting a great looking body. I'm in shape. I've got lots of energy. You say a prayer of thanks and gratitude, and you change that mindset to where you look forward to your exercise. And that's how you're going to stay with your exercise. And you can start with 3 days and maybe move up to 4 or 5 days, whatever you like. But ultimately, you want to be challenging your body with resistance training. Could be some type of calisthenics, could be weight training, even better. And of course, work with a trainer or work with a program so you have some type of format that you're following. We're not covering that here today. Now, something that's often overlooked as a secret for burning fat is hydration. When you wake up in the morning, it's so critical that you have a glass of water. It's been found in studies in Japan that by drinking a glass of water upon waking, people lose more fat. So it couldn't be any simpler than that. And there's so many great health reasons for doing this. Now, you want to shoot for, let's say, 2 or 3 liters of water per day. That would be a good target. And this next point about caffeine is super interesting. This is something that most people don't know that I'll share with you now about how to use coffee for muscle building. We think of coffee for improving energy and maybe even burning fat. But can you use coffee to build muscle? The answer is surprisingly yes. And it's all in the phenomena of nutrient timing. Okay, what does this mean? Caffeine is generally catabolic, meaning it participates in breaking down muscle. Now, we know that caffeine gives us energy. We know that caffeine will improve our metabolism. And so this is one of the reasons why people drink coffee before exercise. But what's been found is that the stress of caffeine contributes to tearing down muscle tissue. And so once the exercise is over, now you refuel with your protein and your carbs and any supplements you're going to take, and the muscle building or muscle protein synthesis starts. So the secret here is you take your coffee, you drink your coffee or take your caffeine before exercise, but never after exercise. That way you are optimizing the amount of time that your body is building up muscle. And when you're building up muscle, you're increasing your metabolic rate and you're making it easier to reduce your body fat. Okay, so that's a little secret that you can employ. Okay, well, I bet many of you have been wondering, when am I going to get to talking about the patches? So let's get into it now. So you've got a few weapons here for building muscle and burning fat at your disposal, in addition to creating your foundation. And first one, of course, we'll talk about is X39. Now, this is really simple. When you're exercising, one of the goals is to create tears in the muscle tissue so that the stem cells will go in and help repair that muscle tissue, and then you can build new muscle fiber and the muscle gets bigger and stronger. And for you ladies, don't worry, you're not going to get muscle bound, right? Because your testosterone levels are naturally lower than men. So X39 is an overall aid to supporting recovery so you can get results faster. X39 also improves the metabolism, by the way. And while we don't make this claim, many people do find that they lose body fat and they lose weight once they start using X39. Now, SP6, again, this was created to help people control their cravings. And there's any number of strategies that you can employ to deal with your cravings. One of them is you can use SP6. You put that on the inside of the left ankle, and that's known to control appetite and hunger. Once you start intermittent fasting, you're going to find that you have better control over your cravings and your energy levels and your hunger, by the way. You can have drinks like vitamin water that have stevia in it, and you can get that sweetness and satisfy that sugar craving. And they have chocolate, by the way, that has stevia in it. And even if you use the nutrient timing that I was talking about, where you have something sweet after you exercise with protein, that's another way to satisfy your cravings. Okay, but SP6 is one way. Now, let's go over and look at carnosine for a minute. And this page that we're looking at here is in the science section of our website. And we're going to be talking about carnosine and energy patches, because both of these play a role in burning fat and improving the metabolism and improving your amount of lean muscle. Now, I turned 57 in April, and I will tell you that my performance in the gym, it far surpasses what I was capable of when I was in my 20s. And I'm absolutely delighted with that. And two of the patches that have helped to get me there are the energy patches and carnosine, which I've used for many, many years now, obviously. So the first one, of course, that we came out with were the energy patches. And way back in 2005, 2004, we did a clinical study with Dr. Frank Schallenberger. This was 2005. And Dr. Schallenberger is an expert on mitochondrial function. The mitochondria is the area of the cell that makes energy. It turns food into energy. And he found through his analysis that when you wear the energy patches, you elevate fat burning by 23%. And that happens within about 20 minutes. So many people over the years have lost body fat by just simply wearing the energy patches. Now, we don't make that claim because we want people to have a healthy diet, exercise, and get plenty of rest. So energy patches can be an aid into an overall program of health and fat loss. So the energy patches can support an overall program of reducing body fat and maintaining healthy body composition. Another benefit yet that we found with the energy patches, which is one of the reasons how they got their name, is we had done these tests with football players at Troy State University and Morehouse College. This is going back to 2003. And we found that when these athletes were using the energy patches, they were getting improvements in strength and stamina. So you use energy patches as an athletic training aid. You find you make faster progress in the gym. And when you're doing that, of course, you're improving your metabolism, building muscle, burning fat. And then finally, with the carnosine patch, we've done a number of studies here. This is one that we did with Dr. Lisa Tully, and we've done a number of studies with the carnosine patch. But what we wanted to look at, since carnosine is an antioxidant that's stored in the muscle, what would happen with people that would use it regularly? Well, we found after just 1 month of using the carnosine patch, people became stronger, their stamina improved, and other measures of physical performance improved as well. So this is really important because when you go on a program to try to change your body composition and lose that extra fat, you want to get results as quickly as possible, and preferably without having to resort to dangerous stimulants. So a carnosine patch is a way that you can improve your performance, improve your muscle and strength without having to use any type of harmful drugs. So the bottom line with all of this is, first, create a foundation of proper rest, proper diet, proper exercise, drink enough water, get your mindset in a very positive state that you're doing all these things to improve your overall health and your longevity, and then use patches as aids to help support this overall program. So I see we have a ton of questions, and I'm going to go ahead over here and see what we got. Okay, and welcome everyone. It's great to have you here. Okay, I'm glad most of you can hear me. Oh, two things. Since it is summer, I'll share with you some other things. X39, very interesting. When you're down at the beach or walking outside and you're in the sun and you're using X39, you may notice that you don't get sunburned as easily. That's a phenomena that keeps coming up. Now, let's say that you do get sunburned. The Alavita night cream, because it contains a fat-soluble vitamin C, you'll find that it removes the sting from a sunburn incredibly quickly. So those are just two things that you can be looking for when you're using X39. Okay, now this is an interesting question. Hi, David. What do you recommend for people that unexpectedly fall asleep in the middle of a conversation? That sounds like narcolepsy. Well, the first thing is, this sounds like a medical condition. So I think it would be better if I didn't comment on it. And this person should probably go to a medical doctor that is a clinical nutritionist. And the benefit of this is that these type of doctors will do conventional blood and urine tests, but recommend nutritional therapies and exercises prior to using drugs for an intervention. And then also many times these doctors will use acupuncture as well. But that does sound like narcolepsy to me. So I think it'd be better in that case if they get diagnosed by a doctor first. Okay. Did you say that it takes time to get regulated with intermittent fasting? For many people, yes. So let's say that you want to ultimately end up where you're only eating within an 8-hour window. And the reason for this is that this is what the clinical studies are based on, and one of the methods for intermittent fasting. Some methods of intermittent fasting require a 24-hour fasting period, and I personally find that to be a challenge. The most that I'll go is 20 hours, but 16 on a regular basis when you work up to it actually isn't so bad. But in any case, I would look at it this way. You can work up to it over a period of time and allow your body to adapt. So let's say that you start out with having your eating window maybe from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Okay, so we'll pick something rather generous. So you've got your 12-hour eating window. And then maybe the following week, you're going to go from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then the following week after that, maybe you're going from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Okay, so you pick a 3-week or a 4-week period of time and you ease into it and let your body adapt over a period of a few weeks. Another thing that you can do is consume extra amounts of water. And you'll find that this helps keep you full, and it will make the transition a lot easier. Plus, it's going to elevate fat burning. So yes, you can give yourself that time to adapt. What do you recommend for people that fall asleep frequently, no matter where? So this could be any number of different, it's interesting, we're getting similar questions on this. There could be an underlying issue going on here. So let me take a stab at some guesses, and it will actually be of help to many of you. If we were doing this live, I would ask a question, and that is, how many of you use toothpaste with fluoride? And did you know that fluoride might be the reason why you're having a problem losing body fat? And I learned this from Dr. Norm Shealy, who is a medical doctor and a neurosurgeon, and he is considered the father of pain management in the US, and an extraordinarily brilliant guy and researcher. So I had this conversation with him. What happens is that fluoride replaces iodine in the thyroid. And when we talk about the hormones T3 and T4, the 3 or 4 is iodine, and the T is for tyrosine, an amino acid. So iodine and tyrosine are required to make these hormones. And if we have fluoride in our bodies, it can replace the iodine, and now our metabolism starts to shut down. Another problem is that many people are deficient of iodine. And so I would recommend a natural source of iodine like kelp. You can simply go to a supermarket or a vitamin store and get a seaweed supplement that will be a natural source of iodine. You may find that helps with your metabolism and ultimately improves your energy. But I would be concerned with someone that falls asleep regularly about what is their mitochondrial function like? Is their body chemistry working properly to generate energy? Are they getting proper nutrition? Do they have a B vitamin deficiency? These are all things that doctors can test for, and definitely worth looking at. Oh, we have some guests in from New Zealand, a place I definitely want to visit. And I understand you're on lockdown under there because New Zealand has no cases of coronavirus. And would definitely like to get down there. So thank you for being on the call. How do we know how many people were in that clinical study group? Oh, with any of our clinical studies that are posted on the website, we will always show the number of people that were in the study. Now, we have two types of studies that we do, generally speaking. The first one is always a pilot study. And the pilot study may have 10, 15, 20 people. And the purpose of the pilot study is to see if we get an effect. Once we find we get an effect, then we go to a larger study, which would be a double-blind, placebo-controlled study, and that will typically have 40, 50, even 75 people. By the way, the FDA and the FTC in the United States has changed their criteria over time. When I got started with LifeWave back in 2002, they only required 20 people in a clinical study to statistical significance to prove efficacy. And today they've bumped that up to 40 people. So that just gives you some perspective. So when you look at our studies, that's what we do. They're either a pilot study with 10, 15, 20 people, or they are a double blind with 40, 50, 60 people. Okay. When do you put on carnosine, night or before? Well, with carnosine, it's really up to you. You can apply the carnosine patch either during the day or the night. With our studies, the carnosine patch has been applied during the day. But some people prefer to use it at night. For many years, I used carnosine during the day, but with X39, now I'm using, I use carnosine either in the evening or on the weekends. I'm always using experimental things and changing my patch routines. But for many, many years, the majority of the time that I've been using carnosine, it's been during the day. But there's no reason why you can't use carnosine at night. Where do you place carnosine and energy patches? Well, like many of our products, they work just about anywhere you apply them. So with carnosine, you could put it behind the neck. You could put it below the belly button. If you had, let's say I've got it up over here on my elbow. There's many different places that you could apply it. With the energy patches, you would rotate them around to different parts of the body. And those are going to be found in the instructions. Okay. Lots of questions here. I'll see what I can get to. Why are the patches made in Ireland, and is that the only place they're made? Well, actually, we have two manufacturing sites. We manufacture the patches both in the United States and in Ireland. So we've had two manufacturing sites now for the past 10 years, actually. This month coming up, just in July, will mark our 10-year anniversary of our facility in Ireland. So we make them both places. I have found that it is difficult for the patches to stay on while sweating. Do you recommend putting them on or before exercise or after, and why? So this really depends on the individual. As an example, I'm on the East Coast right now in Florida, and I exercised at 5 p.m. I had dinner, and so the patches made it through my workout without any problem. So what we found over the years is that if you are applying the patches to clean, dry skin, even during exercise, they should stay on. Now, of course, there are many different types of skin types. If you want to go to the trouble of drying your skin with alcohol to remove the oil before applying the patch, you can do that. Otherwise, after exercise is also okay. You can even apply the patches to clothing and they're still going to work. Okay, now carnosine, another comment about that when you're exercising, one of the benefits is that unlike glutathione, carnosine will tend to stay around in your body longer. So that means even if you're using the carnosine patch in the evening and you're going to exercise the next day, you're still going to get the benefits. Glutathione is not the case. Glutathione, after you remove it, the levels start to degrade rather quickly. Now, using a glutathione patch for detoxification, of course, the toxins are gone or reduced. Okay, we're having a doctor making a comment about sleep deprivation, so thank you so much. As I pointed out, I'm not a medical doctor, so I do not want to attempt to make a diagnosis. I would rather leave that to a doctor. So thank you for making that comment. And this is about sleep deprivation or lack of REM sleep. Okay, are there certain patches that would help to wear during exercise? Yes, when we did the clinical studies with carnosine and energy enhancer, people were using those patches during exercise. Now, would people have gotten the benefits if they were using them at a different time? We don't know. But we found that when people were wearing the patches during exercise, they got the benefits. If you are intermittent fasting, should your cheat days still keep within the 8-hour eating window? No, not necessarily. As an example, for me on Sunday, I enjoy having breakfast with my daughter. And so I go outside the 8-hour window on Sundays. And I found that that works very well. So I would definitely on a cheat day not stay within the 8-hour window. I think psychologically and otherwise, it's better not to. Okay, hi. When a person got a traumatic injury, the patches only help with pain for about 5 hours. Then we have to put on a new set of patches. Is there a reason for that? So I'm going to assume that when you apply the next set of patches, then it begins to provide pain relief. That's an interesting question. We don't have any type of clinical research that would provide an explanation for that. When we do our clinical studies, generally what we find is that the pain goes down and it stays that way for quite a long period of time. Now, if the pain came back after 5 hours, I might be looking at looking at the way electrolytes are metabolized, could be a magnesium deficiency, dehydration. But as far as why the patches would be burning out that quickly, I wouldn't have a direct answer for that because we haven't studied that clinically. Okay, so a kind compliment. Thank you very much. How does the low-carb diet stack up against plant-based, and is pasture-raised meat okay to eat for weight loss? You know, a lot of this is going to depend on the individual. Purely from an ethical point of view, since I'm an animal lover, I would be for plant-based diets under specific conditions. In other words, I think plant-based diets are completely fine, providing that a person has a source of essential fatty acids. This could be algae oil if you don't want to have a fish oil. And then also to make sure that a person is getting the essential amino acids. And also, if you're trying to build muscle, getting a source of the branch chain amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, and valine. So I think plant-based can definitely work, provided that you're taking a look at all of your micronutrients as well as the macronutrients. Also, fats really are pretty important because if a person is interested in elevating their testosterone, a certain amount of saturated fat is going to be necessary. And of course, you can get that with coconut oil, right? So now when it comes to low carb diets, if we're talking about body composition, there's a number of ways to get there. So one way, of course, to get to reduce levels of body fat are going to be through caloric restriction, and that can happen on a low carb diet or a high carb diet for that matter. But yet, we see this phenomena where we have athletes, and the athletes are consuming 4,000, 6,000 calories, and yet they're at 8% or 10% body fat. And this has, a lot to do with the amount of exercise that they're doing, as well as being on a low carb diet. So a lot of this has to do with the individual. Personally, I don't care to be on low carb diets most of the time. And just simply because I find that my training is more intense when I have a moderate carbohydrate intake, let's say 100 grams per day. I don't like to go super high on my carbs, but I don't like to go under 25 grams a day either. And then, yeah, of course, if someone's going to eat meat, it should be organic, it should be grass-fed, and as clean as possible. And there are, of course, a number of different keys to weight loss. And I know when we talk about weight loss, we're really talking about fat loss, since most people want to keep the muscle and reduce the body fat. So I think it's, there's many highways that lead to reduce body fat. There's many different ways that you can get there. All right, I am way past the time here. Maybe I'll ask one or two more questions. What patch do you recommend for knee or joint pain? Well, when we talk about, let's just talk about knee pain for a moment. We can use IceWave, and we would apply the patches around the joint. So let's say that this was the knee. We would be putting the white patch on the outside and the tan patch on the inside. Now, on the other hand, if there was a loss of cartilage, I would recommend instead X39 and glutathione, or X39 and Eon, or glutathione and Eon. But the basic idea here is that glutathione can help trigger regeneration of the cartilage. And so by applying any number of those patches, let's say glutathione on the outside, Eon on the inside, this can help manage the pain, and people might be surprised to find out what happens with their cartilage. We don't make any medical claims about that, by the way, so that would be something somebody can check out. But in terms of managing the pain, it's really great. All right, maybe one more. Let's see. Yes, this is live, and it's being recorded. I'm looking for an interesting one. Okay, I'm brand new and heard mention of a particular patch that helps to detox the body of mercury. Which patch is that? That would be the glutathione patch. Now, bear in mind that mercury can settle in the soft tissue in the body. So it could accumulate in the thyroid, the thymus, the liver. And for decades, IV drips of glutathione have been used to leach or chelate mercury from the body. So if you're having an issue with this, I would definitely work with your doctor, but you could apply the glutathione patch over the thyroid or over the thymus, and you might be surprised to find that there's a metallic taste in your mouth after a minute or two. This is the mercury being removed from the body. And but yes, we did urine studies on this going back to 2005, and found out that mercury excretion could go up 60 to 80% using the glutathione patch. Okay, we are way past the bottom of the hour, but this was a lot of fun, so thank you for bearing with me. And it's always a pleasure to be able to cover all of this information, so thank you for your questions. Okay, well, have a wonderful evening, everybody, and for those of you on the other side of the world, have a great day, and looking forward to talking to you next month. Take care.